Hey y'all, Stand Up Gamer here again, and I have another vlog. I've been shooting video all day and I want to take a break from it, so I'm actually going to kind of jump forward to something I want to do in the future, and that is to create a custom case for the DeskMeet platform. So this is X300 by Asrock, and it's kind of a variation of ITX where it's hard to see, but basically the motherboard in here has dimensions very similar to ITX, but it's just overall longer, and it has these built-in I/O ports in the front. And one of my Patreon members has requested that I design a case just for it, and that's what I'll be doing today, and I'll be doing the sketching of that today. I've already designed a front cover for it. I've already have the PCB for the actual motherboard in CAD, and so I have what I need to actually create an entirely new case. It's really just a matter of deciding what case I want to design for it, and that's why I'm going to be doing some doodling today with y'all and recording it on my Lenovo laptop over here, and hopefully we come up with something cool. And I think at the end of it, what I'll do is I'll gather the concepts that we create, and I'll put it up as a vote to my Patreon members on my Patreon page. So without further ado, let's just go ahead and start sketching. And right away, one of the first ideas I had for this case was to simply just create a standard case for it, but then create a cutout just for the I/O. And well, I guess to backtrack, I wanted to create the case so that it's more accommodating for larger video cards, because as of right now, I think the largest video card you can put in here is like 200 millimeters. So if we can get that longer to, like, let's say like 300 or even 315, I think that'd be ideal. And I say 315 because the RTX 5090 Founders Edition is actually, I think, around 315. So if we can get that, we can kind of capture a lot of video cards. So let's go with that. So I'm going to go ahead and jump into the laptop now to kind of do some doodling. And let me go ahead and start sketching out the first idea regarding a very conventional case. So basically, we would create a normal rectangular box. And the only difference with this one is, because we know that the PCB of the motherboard has I/O, we would then need to create some sort of slot or some sort of like opening to get access to the, let's see, what do we have? We've got a power switch, we've got an audio jack, and we've got USB-C, and then 4 USB-A. And just to, can I zoom in? Yeah, I guess I can zoom in on this. So basically, we've got like these I/O ports, and we need to somehow get access to them. And so one idea is to have something like this, where we would have some sort of like indent in the case itself, so that we can get access to these I/O ports. And then from the top view, what that would look like is you would have the rectangle of the case, and then this would be the motherboard, and these would be the I/O ports. And essentially what we could do is create some sort of slot that allows us access to that. And then we can, the configuration right now from the top view is that the power supply would actually go right above the CPU, and then behind that we would have the video card back here. And I guess from the side view, we would look at it like so. So there would be an opening, and then I guess from here this would be like a ramp. So this little portion here is essentially this line right over here, and then we'd have the I/O over there. And what's nice about having that ramp up, so let's say this is the PCB, we would then be able to have our like USB cables kind of curve into there. So again, we would have it like that. So that this would be like the cutout to allow the cables to kind of snake in. It would be kind of weird because we do have like a little gap there. One other idea surrounding that is, what if we just go ahead and I'm not sure if it's possible. I'd have to actually like look at the case, but if we could, hold on, maybe I can look at it this way. Oh no, I don't think it's possible. I was thinking, could we just have the overall shape of the case just follow the cutout? I think the problem with this is that the video card would need to like rest past that little stake there. So this would be like the PCI slot. So the video card would have to kind of extend past the case itself, unless we put that indent just as a notch that comes out from the top. So if you imagine the top of the case would look like so. Yeah, like that, and then it would come down. Actually, is that right? No, I think I did that wrong. I'm thinking about this wrong. Let me go ahead and erase this, because in actuality what we want is something more akin to this. So then that would come down, this would come down. This makes it more complicated though, for sure. You'd have a little shelf right over here, and then it would come down there. But that would achieve what we want, in that it would still give enough room for the video card, which would sit down below here, because the PCI Express slot's right over here, and then the IO could sit here. So then we would just have like this opening kind of like that. What would be kind of difficult for this, I think, is actually no, it wouldn't be that difficult. Maybe this particular piece right here could be a print on its own, so that we could like print out this entire face directly on the print bed. But this particular part right here could then become its own separate print, meaning like if I were to put it on the print bed, it might look something like this. Let me see if I can imagine this. So it'd be there, that would come up, and then this would basically be like that. So if you imagine when I print it, it would lay flat on the printer. So this is like the Y axis. And then we would then put the power button, audio jack. What else do we have? I forgot now. The USB-C, and then the 4 USB. And it would be printed like that, and then we would just somehow attach it to the rest of the case. I think that might be possible. It's also making the assumption, no, I think it actually is possible. Sorry, I'm looking at the case right now, and basically this power button can actually be relocated, because the problem is if we had the power button here, the video card would interfere with it. But because the rest of the IO is, so the PCI slot's like right over here, and basically the IO is all above it, we could put that piece kind of right there, which would then allow a video card to go through the bottom. So it's definitely low-hanging fruit there, because making a rectangular box would be easy enough. Yeah, more than easy enough to do that. I guess it would just look a little strange if we do it this way. Not that it's a bad thing. We could even just have it so that I'll probably have to start a new page. We could have it so that the top could look something like this, like coming at an angle maybe. I think that might help possibly clean up the aesthetic of the case. Try to kind of just pigeonhole myself into this little corner. I think that would be kind of interesting. Maybe you could even, actually no, we can't bring that all the way down because we have the video card. Never mind. It would have to be something like, I mean, it still works-ish. No, I think I'm thinking about this wrong. Well, we could have the bottom like flat and the top could be like a slope. One option. All right, so let's call this like option 1. Just a really simple rectangular box that would allow us to use this motherboard with a longer video card. And this is X300, so it is AM4. It's pretty much end of life already. I think it's end of life. I know that they made like a new CPU for it like sometime this year, I think. I could be wrong. But in general, it is end of life because AM5 is out now, and so I'm saying this because that would mean that we would need, well, we don't have to accommodate for like newer video cards, because I think it'd be kind of silly to put in like a 5090 inside this thing, even though I mentioned it before. So maybe like, you know, like an RTX 3000 series or even 2000 would be a pretty good pair with this, since it is X300. All right, we'll call this option 1. So now we're going to look at option number 2. I don't know what it's going to be. However, it's maybe not a plain box. What could we do? Maybe we can utilize, maybe it is a plain box still, but maybe the orientation is different. Maybe we do make like a funny tower with it. So right now, obviously the case sits like so, video card up, but we could point it like up so that when you access the front IO, it's looking right at you. That could work. So basically, I'm just gonna draw the plane for the IO first. So if you can imagine, this is the front IO, and the video card would actually force this part to go a little higher. All right. And then we can just imagine this is the box minus the cutout. Yeah, so this could be one option in that. Let me turn it around actually. Oh, I can just darken these up so that it's easier to understand, for me at least. All right, so I could turn it around. I guess this would come out. Kind of like went uglier, but what can you do? Kind of erase these ghost lines. All right, so if we were to rotate this around, so rotate it around, basically what we end up with is a case. I'm just going to draw the rectangle really quick. And then, so let me just turn this around so I can better understand what I'm doing here. Okay, so we've got video card down here. So we're actually going to come down this way and slice this portion off. Yeah, so it kind of looked like that then. we would have a rectangular box that's now vertical. We would have the I/O up here. We have the top here. And basically it would be a box like so. And then we'd have the USB. That's USB. We've got USB-C audio jack. Yeah, it would just kind of just chill right there. That could work. Actually, looking at it now, let's see. Oh no, the video card. Oh, that video card always gets in the way. Because we could slant it down like that. Be kind of weird, but yeah, essentially it would be like that. And then the actual video card would rest inside here. If you can imagine, here's like the fans. And then it would just be a vertical tower. And we'd have the, well, we would have to have like either an enclosure or like some sort of like foot system so that it would elevate itself. And what you end up with is like your cables coming out from the bottom, like so. But just to note, when I put my RTX 3080 in a vertical orientation that was opposite to this, it did have some thermal issues, and so this may not work for every video card, but it'll be an option because I tested out the same configuration with my old RTX 2080 Ti and it didn't care, and so it could really just be dependent on the video card itself. But that would be cool, you know. It'd be like a complete revamp of the tower. It is kind of boring though, but maybe that's, who cares? It's just, or maybe I care, I don't know. No, this is kind of cool. It'll be a quick project. I mean, I'm not obviously gonna be like using the case itself because it's X300. However, for people who want to put in a larger video card, like, you know, like an old, like maybe like 5700 XT or something, I think it'd be a good pairing with the X300 along with maybe at most like an AMD AM4, like maybe, what would be a good one with this, like a 5600X maybe. That would be a pretty solid upgrade, because then again, you'd have more RAM than you need, NVMe. This would also work with an ATX power supply, so I think that's I think people would like that. And then we can make this entire like face over here mesh. We might be able, depending on how big we want this, we could also even maybe put like a cap up here to accommodate for a fan so that we have some circulation that way. A lot of options. One thing though is that in this configuration where the power supply is right above the CPU, yeah, so if you look here, this is the power supply, and then this is, sorry, yeah, this is the power supply motherboard, and you only have like a really small gap for the video card. So sorry, for the CPU cooler. So this would be kind of held back a little bit if we maintain this orientation. But maybe it's not a bad thing, because like if you were to use this exact same power supply still, it is actually quite unique to this system in that it draws hot air through, no, I'm sorry, it draws hot air from the outside and blows it in onto the CPU cooler. So maybe we don't care. Yeah, maybe we don't care. It'll be fine. Just don't put in like a 5800 X3D in there. I don't think you can even do it, but don't do that. Yeah, so I think this could be good for option 2. Maybe we'll do one more. But I do kind of like this because it is, I think, more unique. And what's nice about this particular case is that it does have a small footprint because it's so short. And by doing what we're drawing out here, we would actually still maintain a fairly small footprint. We would just go up. So that's an option. Let's go and do one more. Option 3. Okay. Maybe, like, so for those 2 concepts, I didn't want to use a riser cable. But once we introduce a riser cable in the mix, what would that open up for us? Because generally, when you have normal ITX, like let's say you use a riser cable with a sandwich configuration, you know, like here's a top view. So basically the motherboard sits here, and then you can push your power supply right up against the motherboard. You know, you'd have like your cooler over here, and then you would wrap your you would wrap your PCIe riser cable over or under the motherboard to then create a space for the video card. There's the tabs. Jesus Christ. Anyways, but we can't do that here because of our motherboard with the funny I/O. So essentially, this little area would block the I/O. So that's a no-go. But if we were to, there's a funny idea actually that might be able to work that I've been toying around with just for a normal case in general, is that we take this is the ITX motherboard, correct? And we're looking at the back side of it. And for this particular case, it actually extends out and it has extra room for the I/O. You know, we could wrap the PCI Express slot down here, and then we would have a normal sandwich configuration minus having the power supply in the normal area right beside the motherboard. What we could do is maybe explore having IT or SFX or maybe even straight up ATX power supply right below it. It wouldn't be the most use of space. I don't know the measurements. I don't know if it'll even fit on my printer. I would rather not have to split it up, but we could make a conventional like PSU, you know, this would be the GPU, and have it situated like that. So if you were to draw it out, basically from the top view, you'd have motherboard, your cooler, your video card, and then below it would be the power supply. Now you would just have a normal case like this. But because we have I/O here, what we could do is maybe we could have like a either something like this that opens it up, and that way we can have access to the I/O, or it could just be straight up like just like this. That's kind of a weird case though. That is kind of weird. But it's possible. Here we got 12 minutes, so this thing will turn off in 3 minutes. But essentially the case, well, let's just draw it out in a rectangle for now. It would be slightly taller because, again, PSU would sit down here, and then motherboard would be kind of like this. and then GPU would be over here. And again, what we could do is, you do have a lot of dead space over here. This is all dead space. Well, we could just say like, oh, that's where your hard drive will go. And it could very well, like we could have like a hard drive area. Yeah, I don't know how much space there is, but we could possibly make it hot swappable. Everyone keeps asking for that. Maybe. I think it's an interesting idea. But for the sake of this particular motherboard though, what it could be is that just to satisfy designing for this particular motherboard, it is just a removable piece. Like so. It could even be, maybe even be a design element or something, I'm not sure. And then just have it normal rectangular box. And then this way we can have it work for normal ITX too. But anyways, I think that's good for option 3. I think I have to turn this off in like 20 seconds. So if you like this, give it a like. If you're not subscribed, go ahead and do that. And if you want to be involved in the voting of this, go ahead and join my Patreon. So that's it for today. I will go back to filming, so thanks.